Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some ancient wisdom, but we're not going to treat it like some dusty old book. Nope, we are turning Proverbs 28 into a full-blown cinematic experience, a series of powerful images that are going to stick with you. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the heart of it all, our character. Then, we'll look at how that affects our work and our wealth. And finally, we'll zoom all the way out to see the huge impact this has on society as a whole. All right, first up, we're going inward. This is the foundation, right? We're talking about the huge difference between a heart that's solid and one that's, well, broken. You're about to see just how much what's going on inside of us actually shapes everything on the outside. Okay, let's kick things off with verse 1, and right away we get this incredible contrast. Picture this. On one hand, you've got someone running for their life through a dark forest, totally terrified, looking over their shoulder. But here's the thing. There's nobody chasing them. It's their own guilt that's the real monster. Now, flip that image. You see a lion, just calm, powerful, walking right out in the open, not afraid of a thing. That's the difference right there. One person is a prisoner of their own head. The other is free because their conscience is clear. All right, moving on to verse 13. This one shows us how pointless it is to try and hide our screw-ups. Just imagine someone frantically trying to cover up this pulsating, glowing stain of guilt on their shirt. The light is just shining right through their fingers, right? It's totally useless. But then they just give up, take their hands away, and that bright, harsh light just softens into this warm glow of mercy. Wow. Then verse 14 gives us this image of two people walking on a path. The first person's heart is like soft clay, so when a pitfall suddenly appears, they can just easily step around it. But the other person, their heart is like a block of stone. They can't change course, they're too rigid, and boom, they fall right into the pit. So check out verse 18. It paints this picture of integrity as being like a tightrope walk. The person who's walking blamelessly, they're just steady, straight, confident all the way to the other side. But the person who's perverse, taking all these crooked, shady steps, they suddenly lose their balance and it's all over. Then verse 25, this is a good one. It shows a proud person, chest all puffed out, walking into a calm room. And everywhere they step, these little sparks fly up and start fires of conflict. And then you have verse 26, which talks about how foolish it is to trust only your own heart. I mean, it's like trying to find your way through a giant maze using a compass that's just spinning wildly. You are absolutely going to get lost. Okay, verse 9 gives us this image of someone who is just choosing to be ignorant. Picture a person wearing those big noise-canceling headphones specifically to block out good advice. And then they try to make a call on a phone that has zero signal. Their words just go nowhere. It's the same thing with their prayers. Then jump to verse 23, and we're faced with this really key choice. Do you take the bitter medicine that will actually heal you, or do you take the beautifully wrapped box of candy that's secretly full of poison? One might be tough to swallow, but the other one, well, that one's deadly. Now for verse 24. This one really hits on the destructive power of disrespecting your family. Imagine someone literally taking the last brick out of the foundation of their parents' house and then acting all shocked when a giant crack splinters up the wall. I mean, come on, you're basically a partner with the demolition crew at that point. But verse 7 shows us the flip side. You see a son carefully taking care of his father's garden, making everything in it flourish. And then you see another son, in that same garden, just throwing a huge wild party that tramples everything. See the difference? One builds up, the other just tears it all down. Okay, so we've established that character is the foundation. So the next logical question is, what do we build on top of it? Let's dive into what these proverbs have to say about money, work, and what real prosperity actually looks like. Verse 6 gets right to the point with a really powerful choice. So let me ask you, would you rather be poor, but walking on a solid, straight, sunlit path? Or would you rather be super rich, but you're stumbling along this dark, crooked path that's crumbling away at the edge of a cliff? I think the answer is pretty obvious, right? The path you're on matters way more than what you've got in your pockets. You gotta love the irony in verse 8. Picture this greedy guy siphoning water from the public well into his own private tank. But here's the kicker. His tank is leaky, and he doesn't even realize that all the water leaking out is flowing downhill and watering the gardens of the poor community right below him. So in his attempt to hoard everything for himself, he actually ends up helping the very people he was trying to take from. You just can't make this stuff up. And hey, real quick, let's talk about that word usury. It's really important to get what it means here. We're not just talking about regular interest on a loan. This is about exploitative, predatory lending, the kind of lending that preys on vulnerable people and traps them. So really, it's about justice, not just dollars and cents. Okay, verse 11. Imagine a rich guy looking at his reflection in one of those warped funhouse mirrors. He sees a genius, a hero, but standing right next to him is a poor but wise person, and they're holding up a simple, clear mirror that shows the man's true, flawed self. Big difference. Then verse 19 lays out a super simple formula. You till your land, you work hard, you get plenty of bread. You chase after butterflies and frivolous things, you're going to end up with plenty of poverty. The choice, as always, is pretty clear. Verse 20 keeps this theme going, showing us two ways to build a life. The faithful person? They're building a strong house, brick by brick. It's slow, but it's solid. The person who's in a hurry to get rich? They're frantically trying to build a tower out of playing cards. We all know how that's going to end, right? And verse 22 doubles down on this warning. It's like watching a sprinter at the starting line, and their eyes are locked on this big pile of gold at the finish line. They're so focused, they don't even see the giant pit that's opened up right in front of them on the track. Now look at verse 27. It's like we're looking at two totally different worlds side by side. In one world, you have a generous person with what seems like a magical watering can that never runs out, and they're just watering all the little plants around them, making everything grow. In the other world, you have someone wearing a blindfold, ignoring everyone, and they just keep tripping over all these withered plants, cursing their bad luck. The irony is, they're the ones who let the garden die. So all of this really brings up a critical question, doesn't it? What's the real measure of wealth? Is it just about what's in your bank account? Or is it about your character, your faithfulness, your generosity? I think these proverbs are making it crystal clear that real wealth, the kind that lasts, isn't about what you have. It's about who you are. All right, let's zoom out. We've been looking at the individual level. Now we're going to see how the character of individuals, especially leaders, can shape an entire society. This is where it gets really big. And whoa, verse 15 gives us this absolutely terrifying picture of bad leadership. Imagine a village full of sheep, and a roaring lion and a charging bear are just set loose among them. Total chaos and destruction. That's what a wicked ruler is like. Then you have verse 3, which is a bit different but just as bad. Picture a field of brand new little plants, just desperate for a gentle rain. But instead, they get a torrential flood that just washes everything away, leaving nothing but mud. That's what happens when someone who's been oppressed gets power and then becomes an oppressor themselves. Verse 2 paints this picture of a nation in chaos. It's like the kingdom has a revolving door for its throne room. A new king shows up every week, and the first thing he does is tear down everything the last guy built. It's just constant instability. And verse 16 gives us another angle on this, a ruler who just doesn't get it. They're trying to build a tower with these mismatched, uneven blocks, and of course the whole thing is unstable and ends up crushing the people at the bottom. So verse 5 tells us that evil people they don't understand justice. It's like they're trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle, but half the pieces are missing. They can't see the whole picture. But then you look at verse 4. It shows that the righteous don't just get justice, they actively contend for it. So you might see a crowd on one side of the street cheering for a known criminal, but on the other side you see a few brave people standing in their way, holding up this banner of the law. They're not backing down. Check out the boomerang effect of evil in verse 10. You've got someone digging this camouflaged trap to catch an innocent person, but they get so caught up in it they forget where they put it and fall right in themselves. And verse 17 is just as vivid. A murderer is on the run, but he's carrying this heavy, leaking sack of red sand, leaving a perfect trail for everyone to see. And that trail leads him straight into an open pit that he can't avoid. The point is, you just can't escape the consequences. Verse 21 shows us just how fragile justice can be. It's shocking, really. Imagine the scales of justice, perfectly balanced, and then they're tipped completely off by adding a single, tiny crumb of bread to one side. That's how easily it can be corrupted. And verse 12 shows us what this looks like for a whole city. When the righteous are in charge, the city square is basically a giant festival, full of lights and celebration. But when the wicked take over, that same square is dead empty. Everyone is hiding behind locked doors. And this brings us to verse 28, which really echoes that last point, but with this powerful message of hope. Picture a dark storm cloud covering a field. All the flowers just instinctively close up and hide. But then, when that storm finally passes and the sun comes back out, the flowers don't just bloom again. They increase, they multiply, they fill the entire field, even stronger than before. So we've come to the end of our journey through Proverbs 28, and it leaves us with this one big thought. If our character really does shape our world, then every choice we make, every action we take, it's like we're laying down a brick. And so the final question these Proverbs leave us with is this: what are we building today?